So if you've been following our control systems tutorials, you will know that eventually we want to go in and start doing some computational analysis and use something on our computers to make things a little bit simpler. Now, Matlab is incredibly popular, very well known, and they have some great discounts for students and stuff like that. However, we, in the interest of keeping this as inexpensive as possible and as open to whoever wants to do this as possible, we actually, for our tutorials, are using what's called SciLab. And Kushal had a great idea of creating a separate tutorial string about SciLab. So that is what we are going to do here. Now, SciLab is very, very similar to Matlab in terms of you can put in a lot of mathematical equations, and then you can run analyses on basically bunches of data sets and show it visually and all that sort of stuff. And it's an incredibly powerful tool, both Matlab and SciLab. And honestly, if you know one, it's going to get you 95% of the way on the other. But with that, I am going to jump in and do a screen capture and change microphones and go over it a little bit more in depth so that we can familiarize ourselves with SciLab so that when you jump in, it's not just a complete, what am I doing with these random boxes in a text editor? So by the time we finish with this video, you will feel much more comfortable and you'll be able to follow along in the tutorials much better. So let's jump into that. So as I mentioned, SciLab is a free replacement for Matlab, and we are going to go over it. So if you've gone to scilab.com and downloaded it, they made it quite straightforward with a Mac like I usually run. It's a little bit more complicated in terms of you have to download a special thing, but they put the link there and it really was quite straightforward. So let's open up SciLab. Got this cool little penguin popping up in the bottom, and it takes a moment to load. And when it first loads, you will get, here we go, these 4 windows right here. So when you first come in, this might be a little bit overwhelming, like, whoa, what am I looking at? But it's quite straightforward. Over here on the left, we have the file browser. And then here in the middle, we have the console, which is the command window. And that is where you're going to be living at first. We'll talk more about SciNotes, but for right now, we're going to stick around here in the command window. And so this is just to give you an idea. X equals 5. Hey, X equals 5. And then we can just do X times 5. And we got 25. All right. So moving right along, you'll notice up here, we got the variable browser, and answer, ANS, popped up as soon as we got an answer. And then X, which we assigned here, also popped up, and it told you the value, the type, visibility, how much memory it takes, stuff like that, which is pretty awesome. And then finally, we have down here the command history, and that is obviously the command history. So it shows the last couple of times I've opened it up. You can tell I'm doing this mid-January. And after I messed with them, I cleared them, but I opened and closed and did a couple of other stuff. And we'll talk about clearing all of that stuff in a bit. I, for one, tend to like things to be clean, not only because I didn't want you all to see my crazy, weird things that I was doing when I was preparing for this, but you can do different commands like clear, and you just cleared the variable browser. So let's try X times 5 again. And hey, it doesn't know what X is because we cleared it. And then if we want to clear the console, this part itself, we can do CLC and we clear it. And then somewhere up here, there is also clear history. So now we are back to nothing. Cleared the history, cleared the variable browser, cleared the console. So that is the way to just kind of start everything over. And that makes things a little bit easier. As I mentioned, if you're getting the more complicated things, you can come up here and up in the corner, the upper left, you have Launch SciNotes. And then we just click on it. I just want to show you this. This is where you can type in those same commands. X equals 5, Y equals 5, X times Y. And then we could save it, and then we could actually run this program, and it would do that. Now, obviously, that's kind of dumb to do this, but it becomes much more powerful in the future. So we'll worry about this later. I just wanted to show you exactly what we have here. So let's go ahead and close this back up again. Again, we'll get into that later. We don't need to worry about it. Yes, I do want to close that. Did I hit the wrong button? I might have hit the wrong button. Are you sure you want to? Yes, I did. No, that's the no I meant to hit. Okay, and so as I mentioned, you can do variables. You can do A equals 23, that's a 24. Wow, numbers. And then if you don't have anything, again, you have an undefined variable. So you can basically name anything what you want, but there are certain things that already have predefined variables that you can't take, like pi in this example. So you aren't completely unlimited in what you can do, but you're fairly free to do what you want to do. And you just got to make sure you get your terminology right and you type in the right things, and everything will be fantastic. Now, as you can see, this gets cluttered quite quickly, and you don't necessarily always need this. So if we wanted to redefine a instead of 24, let's do 23 like I originally said. But we don't want to see the result. And we can just put that semicolon in, and therefore we don't have to see it and doesn't have this taking up more space. So now you're just a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit more crunched up, efficient with your space. There you go. Anyway, it's a small thing, but you just need to have the semicolon. And I just did something right there, probably should say. So this is kind of like when you're dealing with Linux or Windows or whatever, you can press up and it'll go through the previous things you've done. And you can just go up and down, so you can repeat something that you have already done quite easily. Now, things get pretty interesting when you are trying to deal with columns and vectors. Columns and rows to create vectors and matrices. So if we want to have a column, you can just define it as a variable. So let's just use A some more because we want to. And you can just create A equals, and then you use the bracket there, and you put whatever numbers you want separated by a semicolon. So, and just keep things interesting. And this will show us a column with the values that you put in here. Now to do a row, it's just as easy, but you don't use the semicolons. You can either use a space or you can use a comma. And I'm kind of curious if I can do both because I have no idea. Hey, you can. So you can even mix in the spaces and the commas if you want. That's sloppy code. That's going to be confusing and look weird and make people think that you were trying to say 56. So don't do that. But it's kind of cool that you are capable of doing that. And then, of course, if you want to do something that is both, to get a 4x4 matrix, for example, you would simply say, okay, 2, 3, 4, 5, semicolon, let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, semicolon, 4, 5. And there we go. Oops. And 5, 7, 8. And we close that up. And there you have your 4x4 matrix. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we go down one row by putting in that semicolon. Then we have 3, 4, 5, 6. And then using that one colon, we go down 4, 5, 6, 7, 5, 6, 7, 8. And really, this might be a little bit weird to wrap your head around at first. But with Matlab and SciLab, I feel like this, dealing with a matrix, with matrices, this is where it truly shines. This is where you're going to be able to crunch huge numbers and huge arrays of numbers and get interesting and usable results out of it. Like I used Matlab a lot in my signals and systems class, and it was doing a lot of signal analysis of huge data sets. In control systems, we won't use this quite as much as in signals and systems, but it's still incredibly powerful. So I highly recommend just messing around with this just a little bit. It's pretty straightforward, and it'll become second nature quite quickly. So one final thing before I jump away from putting in these matrices. Well, first of all, go check out the written tutorial. As always, Kushal goes a little bit more in depth and he gives more examples. A lot of these examples are based on what he has. But if you want more in depth so this video doesn't get hugely complicated in the weeds, definitely go check out Kushal's tutorial because he has a lot of fun stuff. But with that being said, one of the last things I want to say is, let's say we want a series and we don't want to have to type it all out. So let's just do 1 to 10. And then we get right there. So that's pretty awesome. And you can do different variations of that. So you can even do 1 to 10. And then you can do the semicolon of, and then let's do, can't type, 2 to 20. And then we should have issues. Oh no, inconsistent row, and that's because I didn't do that right. So that's nice. It's nice that it catches you and says, hey, you can't put 11 in the second row and 10 in the first row. That's not going to work. And it gets even more complicated because let's say we only want every other number, something along those lines. So we can just go 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. And let's say we can change that to 3. And so basically, if you look at that and you just realize that you have your first one saying where you're starting, saying the step number, and then saying basically where you are ending. And you can jump through. So you can have some flexibility so you're not having to manually put in some very long and repeating sets of information. So that simplifies things quite a bit. So there's only 2 more things that I want to cover here really quick that will, I think, get you on the right footing as you are starting to do things with SciLab. And the first one is that you can do basic programming language syntax in here. So let's go back to just saying a equals 5. Good. Now we can say, hey, if a is less than 6, which it is, then b equals 7. And then we can just say end, and we press enter, and voila, b equals 7 because a is less than 5. So now if we say, hey, let's go up 2 and say a is 7, then we can go up and say that end, and now b, I didn't change it, so you can't see that something changed. So we can basically do that again as a better example, and then end, and then let's see what b is. B is still 7. There we go. That's what I meant to do. That's what I wanted to show. So as you can see, very, very basic in this case with an if statement. And I only wanted to show this just to show you how it works. And frankly, here in the console, this doesn't make any sense. But once you get into the SciNotes more, it's going to make a lot more sense, and you're going to be using this all of the time. So with that, I use the if statement because it's so straightforward. But if you want to do an if-else statement, an else-if statement, you want to do some switch statements or select statements, for and while loops, all of that sort of stuff, you can do that here in SciLab. So this is one of those things that I'm always ranting on in the tutorials and anything that you do need to know how to code, even as an electrical engineer, just because it's everywhere. Now, you don't need to be an expert. None of this stuff is very complicated, but it is incredibly helpful. So not only can you do these statements, but you can also create functions and then call those functions to simplify things for yourself. So not going to get into that. Again, go check out the tutorial that Kushal has, but just know that that power is in here. And if you want more information, he's got tons of great information out there. So the last thing that I want to talk about is just, I'm going to use my, use the shortcut I showed you before of just a equals, let's say 1 to 100, and then b equals, let's just say, I can say b equals a times 3. And then b becomes a matrix of the same size, but all the values have been tripled. So that makes things quite a bit of fun. So with that, let us plot this. Plot 2D, because there's only 2 dimensions here. And then let's make sure we have A as the first and B as the second, and then see what happens. Oh, something pops up, and it shows a straight line where 10 goes up 30. So not very exciting, but we just graphed something, and that's pretty cool. And then you can, this is also something where using SciNotes, you can create something that will create these graphs and number everything and label the axes, and it looks super nice and it's awesome. And it's surprisingly powerful. For a free piece of software, this is pretty amazing. I think it's pretty cool. And then you can even just go back here and say, hey, let's make b equal to a cubed, and plot that again. And then it'll pop up right there. And hey, now that's another curve, and it gets a lot more interesting. And ooh, it gets very big very quickly. So yeah, tons of opportunities here. And this is just the text side of things. It gets much more complicated. And we'll get into that in the next tutorial with the XCOS. You can use, not complicated, a lot more powerful in terms of using visual blocks to put things together, and it's quite cool. And we'll use those quite a bit in the control systems series that we're currently doing with Kushal, because it just makes things a lot easier and you don't have to get into the math quite as much which, hey, it's still super important, but hopefully it'll make it so you don't just get overwhelmed with the math. But hope this was interesting. Hope this was helpful. If it was, like, subscribe, all of that jazz. We'll get back doing more control systems tutorials, and we will get and do even more SciLab tutorials, not only with XCOS, but also with different things with the SciNotes and all that sort of stuff. So please come back and learn a little bit more with us. But as it is, have a great one. See you later.